Hello, welcome to this webinar. It's about the new release we just made today, MyToken 2.5. My name is Bogdan Litescu and I am the owner of DNN Sharp. Now I also see a few new faces here in this webinar. So before going into what's new, I want to give a bit of overview about what is MyTokens and how you can use it. And I think we have to look at MyTokens from different perspectives, because marketers would use MyTokens to personalize content for visitors, because content personalization is the future of online marketing. If you can get content that's very relevant to the user based on their history on the site or on their geographic location, for example, you can get much better results in getting leads or sales from those customers. And then we target it differently to power users, because power users are actually the users that take full advantage of MyTokens, because they would pull data from various sources, like they would pull data from a database or from web services, and then create Razor templates or HTML templates that they would use across the portals. So the power users build entire websites or web applications based on MyTokens. And finally, we have .NET developers that will expose data for content editors. So they already have like their applications or their project, Visual Studio projects. They will compile and they will hook into Visual Studio to expose new tokens to the website. And I think this is one of the nice features that I want to touch today for the developers, because usually developers are concerned with giving up control. They usually, as developers, we think in terms of all or nothing, but MyTokens lets you choose middle ground. So you can still implement your own logic, but let others deal with how the content is displayed or where is displayed, as a matter of fact. And I think this will give you a big overview. Of course, this doesn't tell you much. You have to take MyTokens, download the trial and play with it, and also watch a few video tutorials to see what you can do with it. So right now I will jump to the 2.5 release, but first of all I want to give some justification to why we haven't released any new MyTokens version in the last 2 years. I think some people thought it's a dead project, but it's not a dead project at all. And what I've prepared for you here is actually 5 pages of changelog, because we kept adding a lot of features into it, but never got the chance to make it into an official release. So I think that was maybe a bad decision. We should make more often releases, because it also shows our involvement to you, the customers. So I'll just jump through the new feature, and again, everything that you'll see in the changelog is not new. I mean, this has been developed for the last 2 years, and those of you that use MyTokens already saw a lot of these features, because we made a lot of new builds and posted on our forums. And actually what triggered this release is I was talking with a client a few days ago on a requirement that we've implemented in MyTokens, I think 1 year ago. And I was really surprised to find that we have not only that one, but a lot of more nice features added that have never been released. And that feature was actually the pass-through authentication, and I will get to talk about that in a bit. So I think first of all we moved MyTokens during the last 2 years. We moved it to work on medium trust and also on Azure compatibility. And right now I think, yes, it's also marked as the evoke content compatible on DNN store. So we worked a lot of on compatibility. The next thing, this thing that I outlined earlier is we open the interface to .NET developers. Previously we supported a mechanism where you would implement an interface, but it was quite limiting. Now we allow for implementation right off the DNN interface. It's an interface called property source, and I will show you that in a minute. And what it does, you can implement your assembly. And actually I think what I will do is, as I'll go to the changelog, I will alt-tab to my project and the site so I can show you one at a time. Because otherwise going through 5 pages and then showing the demo will disconnect everything. So what I have here is actually my token, and here I have a Visual Studio. I have here my projects. This is my tokens, but you don't need my tokens. You only need your demo project and other reference to my tokens core DLL, and then to .NET DLL. And this you can find in the bin folder. These are assemblies in the bin folder. Then you just implement this interface, eProperty access, that comes from DNN. Yes, and then from C# code you can implement your own logic. So here I just did a simple switch and just return hello world. But you could implement any kind of logic in your application and just return a string. And the way this connects to my tokens is through configuration folders. So in the desktop modules my tokens config, you'll find the token source folder, and here you have some configuration files. And here, just by running a configuration file that has this format, like it's a JSON file, and then the magic string is this one, type string, which connects a token name, which is demo, connects it to a class, to an iProperty source. So now what I do, I go to, let me go to my tokens, and just I use the test window and I will just write demo, or actually I can search for the token here. Yeah, so you see it exists under core tokens. Now just type demo echo, and this will call the assembly which returns the string. So this way you can hook your own code to my tokens, and from here my tokens can distribute it anywhere. So I can take this token and I can use it, for example, in an HTML module. I think let's also, I think we need to enable replace tokens in any case. Okay, and let me try to edit the content again. Maybe I have a problem here. Yes, I'm having a problem with saving the HTML module. Never mind, I will use a different module. So, because the advantage of using my tokens is you can use it in a variety of modules. And one of these modules is for example, our action for module. And here I will just maybe display it in a text box. So in the initial value, I will place this token. Yeah. So now in this text box, action form called for my tokens, and it actually didn't call explicitly for my tokens. It called for DNN tokenizer, which actually was intercepted by my tokens, and my tokens got the string for the custom assembly that I created. Yeah. So you see, this way is easy to spread data in all places over the applications. Okay. So let's get back to the changelog. The next thing that we added is a feature to, it's called pass-through authentication, and what it basically does, it's a form of another system to authenticate a user on the current system. And the way this happens is first the system exchange an authentication token, and based on that token it generates an URL. And I think it took me, when I got back to this after 1 year, it took me I think half an hour to get my head around. So I will make that a part of a separate training video, because it's quite complex to set up, but I will just show you where to start. So basically it's this external API screen here, which most of it will become obsolete soon, because you can do APIs now with one of our other modules, the NN API endpoint, which is much more powerful. So we'll eliminate most of this in a future release. And the way to create a pass-through authentication is to create a new API key and specify the pass-through authentications. And then you would have to pass this secret key to the other server, and the other server can exchange it for another token. Actually, it will exchange it for a URL that, when redirected to that URL, a user will be automatically logged in. So, like I said, I will go through that in a separate video because it's quite complex. Yeah. Next, we added methods to serialize objects to JSON, and this is mostly for Razor scripts, because most of the time you need in Razor script you need to generate JSON data, so you need to pass it, for example, to JavaScript code. And this, I think this was explicitly implemented for the Google Charts integration. So now you can take for example a database token that runs a query against the, let's say, users table, and pass it to Google Charts to make a nice display on that. And we have a video. I will not go into this because we have a separate video on our YouTube channel that I think does a pie chart with different types of error in the even log. So you can go to YouTube and check that video out. Okay. Next, I think I will not go through all of this because it's 5 pages. I will just go through, I think, to the ones that I think are worth mentioning right now. Like, for example, this one, support default value for profile tokens, and this actually it's a much bigger story, because we've now we allow the standard tokens to also accept default values. Like in previous versions, you would have we would use the tokens that we inherited from DNN. So like user and profile and tab tokens, we would use what we get from DNN. But of course that didn't support parameters, and it didn't support default values. And now most of these tokens, if not all, support this. So for example, you can get a profile property, write the equal sign, and then if that property doesn't exist, it will return the default value. So if we were to do a quick test, let's see, profile first name would probably return my first name here. Yes. But if I write a property that doesn't exist, I would probably get an error. But if I write the default value, I think the property still doesn't exist. The property has to exist. Let's see, probably I didn't put any city. Yeah, so I didn't put any city in my profile, and then it picks up the default value here. Yeah. So now we support this syntax also on the tokens that we inherit from DNN. Next thing, we implemented a new skin object that only uses server-side code. So this, because the XMod, we got some requests on our forums to integrate with XMod, and the XMod had particular requirements which didn't work with the previous skin object. But we continue to support both, and on our documentation site you'll actually find both forms, I think. Next, we added some debugging functions, and you'll find this in the setup logging screen. So what you have here, besides setting the level of logging, and if you set it to debug, you have to be aware that it generates a lot of logging, so it will eat up the server space quite fast. So you have to be careful about that. And then you get to specify a list of IPs to debug, and that is especially to avoid alternate. If you have a website with 1,000 users, it will be very difficult with 1,000 visitors. I mean, it will be very difficult to go through the logs and see what you're interested in. So you want to debug a particular problem, you just put the IP of the user that reproduces that problem, and it will only log from that IP. Yeah. And here, now that I set it to debug, here I would be able to see the log files. Let's try to invoke some tokens. Maybe do a refresh. No, I don't have it here. So this, for example, I think for Razor or other tokens, we'll see log files generated here. And now you can open it directly from here. You don't have to go to disk like in previous versions. And same for Razor scripts, we extended the logging, so now it's also... Sorry?
Sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to see the entire screen.
You don't see my entire screen?
Yes.
Okay. I will share it again.
No.
How much do you see?
Some of the rows are cut off, and we don't see all rows.
Okay. Then maybe what I will do is just I will use less area of my screen. Would that work? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I will do the same then with the browser. Okay. Like I was saying, we also added this new debug capabilities to Razor script. So now when you debug a Razor script, it will also show you the line numbers in the log file, and that will be useful to find the error. So because Razor scripts are compiled into .NET code, and you want to see the line number where that error occurred. So going to the page 2 of the changelog. More debugging function, like we added that clear logs button. So because, like I said, the log files can get quite big and quite fast. Next, we added the same thing for token parameters, and that is we added the ability to specify default values. If you're not aware, token parameters, it's a mechanism in which you can send tokens to other tokens. You can set parameters to other tokens. So let me just create a quick token. It's a constant string, for example. And here I would be able to access the token parameters. And the syntax would be this one, token params, and then the param name, let's say P1. And what this does, it will just display the P1 parameter. But obviously, you can do much powerful stuff. You can, for example, do database query with parameters and stuff like this. Yeah. So now whatever I send into P1, it gets reflected back. And I think what we added here is the ability to specify default values. So if I don't provide a value for this parameter, I can put it here to a default. Yeah, so now it's without parameters and it picks up the default value. The same thing we've applied to the Razor scripts. So you can do the same in Razor scripts with default value. And we also optimize the Razor scripts because normally when you invoke tokens with parameters, you have to build like a magic string. That syntax is still supported, so you can still build that magic string with like a compatibility list of parameters, something like that. Or you could pass in a dictionary. So you build a dictionary of parameters, like the name of the parameters and the value, just pass it into the token. Same more debug function, you can view the log files in the browser from the screen that I showed you earlier. For database tokens, we've allowed to specify the name of the connection string that is from web.config. And that also allows you now to build tokens against different databases, because we also look at the provider. So if it's SQL provider, it's you're using a SQL database, but you can also use ODBC or Oracle or something like other database providers. And then I already talked about this one a bit. In the user tokens, like user, let's say email, you can also retrieve other users. So now normally you'd use this token just to get the current user. But now you can, and I don't know if I have other users here, but normally you do something like, let's say I want the first name, and this will bring my first name. But then I say that I want of a different user, and I can use the user ID to pass the user ID parameter. Yeah, but I don't have other users on the system. Or you can also pass the email or the username. So you can identify users by these three parameters and get their data instead. Yeah? So this is again part of the bigger story that I told you about the core tokens. Another thing that we added, we have a skin object that when you place on the page, it takes care of tokenizing page meta tags, page description, page title. Yes, and now it also tokenizes header and footer of the module. And actually I think this story refers to a different piece, which is a tokenizable container. So now if you can open a DNN container, an ACSX file, and instead of deriving it from .NET container, you can derive it from this myTokens container, and it will automatically apply tokens to header and footer. And I think it might also do more than that. It might also go over all controls and apply tokens. I think this is also covered on our documentation site. Yes? Let's go to the page 3 of the changelog. So here basically it starts a bunch of new tokens that we've added and the new options that we've added to existing tokens. Like we've added the ability to create a non-persistent token with a set cookie by specifying an interval when it should expire. And then we add debug print vars tokens. I'm not sure what this is and what it does, but we can check it out. Okay, I don't know what this does. We added portal current language token. Again, this is part of that story where the portal is a token we derive from DNN, but we add our own capabilities to it, including new tokens. Yes, and same with user IP. And then we added a new class of token that are conditional tokens. So basically, this lets you compare two values. Then let me show you that too. If equals, and two values are A and B. They don't have to be numbers, they don't have to be strings, they don't even have to be hard-coded here. They could be, for example, other tokens. For example, I could do something like this. So if my user ID equals 1, it will just return true. And you can also combine it with the piped characters to return different string. Yeah. So let's say if user ID is 1, you want to return false instead. So you just return false. And this is extremely useful when used in our modules that accept conditions. Like this form builder has this condition field here that accepts Boolean expression. So you could use this token compared to values. It could also be tokens that are generated by the form, like the name of the field. But it doesn't make sense in this context. It will make sense maybe later when I click the button, because then I have a value. And then I put a value. And if this is false, which it is because my user ID is 1 right now, I should not see this text box anymore. Yeah. So I see a form that doesn't have the text box anymore. I just disable it with that Boolean condition. Same, we added a string replace. So this is basically the .NET function of string replace, to replace one string in another. And then again, we extended the profile with new tokens, country code and region code, because this kept changing. And I think some of our clients that are on the forum that complain about this and are also on this webinar. DNN kept changing how region and countries are stored in the last 2 or 3 releases. So I think the country and region always return the name, or I think right now they return the list entry ID from the DNN table. So we created these tokens, country code and region code, which return the code on all releases of DNN. So they are consistent. Again, more tokens. Again, in user roles, you can get the expiration date, effective date of a role of a given user. We've added these GUID tokens, so you can generate new GUIDs. Very useful when you want to generate IDs, for example, unique IDs on the fly. Just use it like this, and you'll have a new ID. Yeah, and every time you invoke it, it generates a different string. Good, let's go to the page 4 of our changelog. We have support for the context item, but we just added different synonyms because people would look for them in different ways, and we realized that we supported it in different ways, but it was the same thing, so we just make it the same thing. And then we've extended the URL token with new tokens. We can get the page name now. The page name means just for example, my token studio .aspx, and then without extension you would get it without the aspx extension. And then we have this do math token. I'm not sure how is this used. Let's see if we can find it here. It just says expression, so would it be something like this? Yeah, so looks like something like this. You can do simple calculations with it, I assume. And then we added the browser token. So the browser token exposes the entire browser object from .NET. So you can expose all the capabilities that are in the object. And one nice thing that we did with this token is we built adaptive design. And I've demoed this, I think, at DNN Connect in Italy with James from 51 Degrees. They build this mobile detection, and they put their findings also in the browser object of the .NET. So what we did, but even without his provider, we still be able to do most of that. We hide different modules on the various devices, but on server side. So it's not like responsive where you send everything on the server side and just hide it if the browser is small enough. We just don't send it to the server. And we did that using Easy Container, which also has a condition field. And Easy Container, if you do not know it, is just a container that you put on a module, like any DNN container. It gives you all these nice options to customize the appearance of the container. I'm sorry that I don't have it installed now. I will show it to you. But it also has some responsive capabilities, so you can define on which devices that module will be visible, but that happens on the client side. But it also has this condition field, which is evaluated on the server side. And if you use, for example, browser is mobile device equals true or something like that, in the condition field, then that module will only show for mobile devices. And even if you resize it will not appear or disappear, because it doesn't arrive on the client side at all. It only looks at the browser capabilities. Okay, next, does not have role. This is the opposite of has role, obviously. Same with tab, has permission. This again, tab is a DNN token that we inherit, and we add new properties. Has permission and does not have permission for view, for edit, stuff like that. And I think all these tokens, let's see, tab, all these tokens maybe are here. It might be that not all properties are documented here, but now that I'm here, let me show you where you can find all of this. On our documentation site, here in the tokens core, you'd find most of these PBL tokens, yeah, and a bit of description about each of them. So another cool feature that we added is the ability to create relative dates. So you want one date to always be relative to current date, and then, for example, this token will display the date from 3 days from now. Yeah, so it shows me 14th of December. Okay. So these are very nice tokens, and also you can add days, months, I think weeks, and you can do it positive or negative. Yeah. When you use this, well, imagine that you want to add to show the last entries added in the last 3 days, and you'd use the database token for that, and then you can use this token to build that date. Although I think if you're in SQL, there might already be better ways to do it. Okay. We added, and I think at this point we have on page 5 we only have fixes, and I think I'll not go through this. Let me see if there's anything interesting. Yeah, I don't think there's anything interesting in the bug fixing. So I will just stop here. Again, I already showed you the link to the documentation. This is a link to the website, and also you can come to our forums. We always have a lot of conversations going on there, a lot of ideas. And I think now I will go over a few questions. Let's see. One question for Jerry. Replace response token. Check this option to have my tokens recursively replace tokens. What does it do? Let me find it real quick. I think it's somewhere on the last step. Yeah. So basically, imagine if you're doing a query that returns another token. Do you want to display that token on the UI, or do you want to recursively apply tokens to it? Yeah. So you could make a select, return the user first name token, but that will just be displayed on the screen unless you do this option here. Yeah, I see a lot of questions about the resolution. I'm very sorry about that. We should have tested it before the call, but I hope at least this webinar was recorded. So I hope you will see it in the recording. But if not, you can just post the questions here, and I will just show whatever you think you missed that's important. Okay. A question from Richard. Do the skin objects work with sharp look? Yes, in places where you'd expect them to work, but let me think, where would that be? Yeah, I don't think we have any place where you can use my tokens in sharp look right now. I imagine that we could use it, for example, in defining CSS styles or stuff like that, but other than that, I don't see a place where you can provide. Oh, actually, I'm not entirely correct about that. I just remembered. Yes, we do have this, and actually, what you saw here on this page, not this one. This page. What you see on this page, this is actually my token, so you don't see the DNN control bar or anything. It's just this set of controls at the top. And here, when you create a new page, you do have the option to specify some variables, and these variables is again an engine that can be extended to new variables. Like, for example, you could add a phone number and stuff like that, and here you could put tokens if you wanted to. Use the telephone, let's say. And then these variables you can use on page templates, so you can use it in this place. Let's see more questions. How do we update from my tokens 2.4.78? You just download the new install and you install it from host extensions on top of that. I don't expect there will be any problems. We tested this continuous upgrade. Another question from David. Is there a way to format the resulting date? Yes, I think so. I think I'm not sure. Let me see. I think there is a way to specify the format that comes from DNN, but I'm not sure if we support it anymore. Then I will just do a quick test. And I think no, not date time. No. Let's see if that makes anything. that did something, but I'm not sure what. Yeah, so yeah, you can use the format here. So you see I just put YYY and it gives me the year number. So you can use this kind of formatting, but I don't think it will work in all tokens. It will depend from token to token. Let's see more questions. Francesco, is free the update? No, the update will cost 50% of the cost of a new license. So depending on the license that you have, you do the calculation. And you also have to contact us if you want to upgrade, because we don't have a mechanism in DNN to do this kind of upgrades. So we have to do them manually. With WebSharp and AppSharp, they are included. If you still have the 1-year update subscriptions active, you can get this update. Let's see other questions from Richard. We are using my tokens to track Google Analytics based on the incoming URL. How could we apply that in SharpLook? I think you would not do this with my, if I were to do it, I would not do this with my tokens. I would track the Google, the incoming URLs. I would track it maybe with redirect toolkit, for example, or with what else? Yeah, with redirect toolkit probably. My tokens, you can use it also for like writing data, but usually most of the tokens are just from pulling data from various sources into the HTML. You can also use it to update data in the database. You can do update queries, or you can put data in the session in the cookies. And yeah, I think for that purpose you can also use redirect toolkit. And redirect toolkit, you don't have to add it to every page that happens. For this to happen, you can add it to one page, define a global rule, and do a set of actions against that URL, and also apply it conditionally if needed. So it's much more powerful for doing this kind of stuff. One question from Varun. Can we use tokens in multiple portal scenarios? We create tokens in one, and then those can be accessed all over child parent portals in that instance. Yes, when you create a new namespace, you have the option to specify either this will be available on all portals. So it is this checkbox here. If it's not on, then you can only access the tokens, the custom tokens that you create, on the current port. Another question from Francesco. Active grid when saving configuration queries from that to determine the columns in the data set of the result. So if there are any tokens in the query, cannot run it. I'm not sure I understand this question. Yeah, sorry, I don't understand. Another question from Richard. It is the Google code that needs to vary, so my tokens needs to be only way to embed different codes. Okay, so I see what you mean now. You want to embed on different page, you want to embed different Google Analytics. For that, I think it's better to use like a specialized module and just place it on the page. You can use my tokens, of course. Yeah, you can use my tokens, of course, and you can place my tokens in SharpLook. You cannot place it right now as a skin object, but you could place it in an HTML module, for example. Okay, so I think, Francesco, I didn't understand your question, but you feel free to drop on our forum, yeah, and put it there, and we can talk further until we understand and give you an answer. Yeah, sorry again for the screen. I wish we did more testing of that before. So if that's all, thank you very much for your time, and we prepare a new webinar. We have 2 upcoming webinars. We have one webinar on Sharp Look. So we did a really amazing stuff with Sharp Look, and I don't know if I should show it to you now because it's so amazing, but I think I will just tell you about it, not show it to you. We did some very amazing stuff with Sharp Look. We got a website running on a very small machine at Amazon, a micro machine, and it runs like 7 times as fast as a dnnsoftware.com website, and it only takes 18 megs. So it's very powerful stuff that we did, and we'll have a webinar on that, I think, this month, maybe next week. And then we'll have another webinar about the Search Boost release. That will be a major one. Again, this should be this month. And I think more will coming and will be announced on all our channels, social media and email list and so on. Okay, thank you very much for your time. See you next time.